They did, however, get a point in the second half of a back-to-back. So we got to take our wins. And we could talk about what happened in the Blues game and the Leafs dominating period 1 and the Blues dominating period 2 and the reffing in the third and Jake Neighbors running wild and, whatever. And you could talk about the Wild game and you could talk about that play in overtime, the change. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh.
We can talk about all that. But guys, I don't want to talk about these specific games to start. We need to talk about this one number, and it was 7.8% going into last night.
Yep.
It is now around 10%.
Wow.
The Leafs are, listen, you want positivity this morning? I'll give it to you. The Leafs moved up a place in the standings for the worst power play in the league.
The 31st now?
They are 31st now. The Buffalo Sabres are the only ones who are worse.
I'm still down on it.
So let's talk about the Leafs power play, which it's not unfair at this point, gentlemen, to say is costing them very real points in the standings.
Yep. They should have got at least a point out of that game against St. Louis. You had the opportunities. Teams score power play goals.
Yeah, it's weird.
Teams score power play goals. You should be getting, I mean, maybe not every game, but like every second game, if you're generating enough opportunities or getting enough opportunities, I should say, on the power play. We could debate whether or not they did get enough power plays in that game against St. Louis. They had enough that they could have made it work. They couldn't do anything right. They didn't shoot. They didn't pass. They didn't go to the net. They couldn't gain the zone. They were garbage. Minnesota, they finally did score. I talked about this in the LFR, and I didn't want to see it seem like a Scrooge. Like, okay, positives. They had the zone, and they were set up. Rare for them. Matthew Nyes, bull in a china shop in front of the net. Good stuff. That Matthews pass to Nylander is sexy as hell, and the shot is sexy as hell. That's just not going to work most games. And I don't think anyone wants to hear that. I think everyone's like, hooray, they finally scored. It's extraordinarily low percentage.
I noticed, by the way, the Wild really collapsed their power play. They take the shooting lanes away, but they'll let you pass it around the point as much as you want to. And the Leafs will do that.
Go ahead. And what happened was Matthews just flutters this beautiful feed through two Wild players and Tavares, manages to not hit any of them, and then there's another Wild player on the other side of it, and it's gorgeous and it's beautiful, and they finally get off the schneid, and maybe that's exactly what they needed mentally to go into the next game and have confidence in their power play and actually do something with it. But they're not going to be able, like the goal that they scored in that Wild game, they might get 5 more of those the rest of the year. Like just the way it was scored. I'm not talking cross slot pass. Cross slot through that kind of traffic. I sound like a Scrooge because they lost. Like they dropped 3 out of 4 points. But that's simply not going to be available to them most nights. It's not going to work most nights.
So I think the question becomes, guys, because the one thing that is true is that the Leafs power play has worked up until a certain date every year.
End of February last year, was it 28th?
And that's usually the case. It's about end of February, except for 2023 when, as you mentioned, the LFR this weekend, they had a good power play. And look at that, they won the first round. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
So crazy how that happened. But previous years, their power play has stunk in the playoffs, and that's what's happened.
You turn up the lights.
So the problem now is that this seems to now be a carryover from mid-February last year. This is not they're started slow. No, this is as bad as it looked at the end of the season last year.
Okay.
And you've changed coaches, and you have now finally mixed up the lines. At what point do the players on the ice go, maybe we ought to shoot it?
Coach has told them. Like this is, you can only go off what you're told. Right? Like you not being in the locker room.
Yeah.
When they're going through this stuff. Jesse, I know you have access to the locker room now, but something tells me they don't break down the power play in front of you.
No, they don't do that.
No.
I see them practice it.
There you go.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Do they shoot it in practice?
Occasionally.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, no.
I like that they do that. It's
Yeah.
cute.
Not as much as they should, but still.
That's quaint that
Yeah.
they do that. Gorgeous of them to do that. Craig Berube's been... Boy, there's no subtext to this coach. I kind of love it. There's not Babcock's weird mind games. There's not Keefe needing to compliment sandwich everything. There's Craig Berube going, go to the net, shoot it. I mean, it's very simple, and they won't do it.
One thing that I think has crossed my mind a couple times, one thing that has crossed my mind a couple times during this season and looking back to last season is how effective they've been at 6-on-5 as opposed to 5-on-4. And it feels like when they're 6-on-5 and they pull the goalie, there's a sense of urgency with the team.
Yeah.
That we got to get this goal here to save a point, to try and extend the game to get a goal. And with the power play, there isn't that same urgency. It's the same people on the ice that they throw out at 6-on-5, but their percentage of goals when they are at 6-on-5 with the empty net is higher than their power play.
That's psychotic.
They're better at 6-on-5 than at 5-on-4. And it just, to me, it's a mentality thing right now. It's
totally.
You guys aren't taking the same amount of urgency you are with that situation as you are with the power play. And like you said, Adam, this is literally costing them points in the standings. Like, this is a huge part of hockey and the game. You can be power play merchants and rack up goals and points that way. Like, it's a very easy way to win. We see Kucherov load up on points and goals that way because he's good at that part of the game. And it's an important part of the game to be good at. And yeah, there's a lot of goals being left on the board because you don't have a competent power play.
There was a game last year. I mean, Samsonov was just terrible in net, but I want to say the Lightning got like 3 power play goals. And all right, well, tuck it in.
Yeah,
like it's over.
Being good at the power play is the same way like teams are like great at goaltending. You know, it's like, okay, we load up on this one kind of, quote, specialized position of a hockey game where it's not just 5-on-5 your forwards against your defense. It's, hey, this specific aspect, we have good goaltending, we have good power play, and we beat you in that way, and overall we're winning the game because we are better than you at this little area of the game, you know? And if they're not good at this, it's really long-term, really difficult for this team to do anything in this league if you can't have a competent power play.
Can I give you one snapshot of a bigger problem?
Okay.
Just a stat. This is from Core CHL. It's a good follow on Twitter. Matthews 5-on-5 shot percentage, 2021 to 2024.
Okay.
So averaged out over 3 years.
Yeah.
It's 14.09%.
That's 5-on-5?
That's 5-on-5.
Okay.
Pretty good.
That is.
Although snipers usually are like in the 18, 19, 20%.
They're there. No, they're around there.
Okay.
Over a 3-year span, yeah.
I think it's impressive as well.
It's incredible.
It's amazing that he scored that many goals. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying. Matthews 5-on-5 shooting percentage in 2024-25. That'd be this season. 5.8%.
Yep, that'll go up.
Matthews 5-on-4 shooting percentage 21 to 24. This is power play. 20.48%. That's what I'm talking about, right? Snipers.
Touch of death.
Right?
I wonder how that compares to other stars in the league.
How about how it compares to this year?
Okay.
6.25%.
Jesus.
And listen,
Oh.
it's not like Marner can't score. It's not like Nylander can't score. I think both of those guys, I think Nylander is a 40-goal guy, should be a 40-goal guy every year at this point in the peak of his career.
Yep.
I think Marner should be a 30-35, and maybe one of these years he gets a 40. He's going to have to start shooting more.
He's consistently, each year for the last 3 years, scored at like a mid-30s pace.
It's there.
Yeah.
Matthews, we've seen him get almost 70.
Yep.
We've seen him do 60 twice. If he isn't scoring, one of them needs to be.
I went through this in the LFR last night. I called this in the summer. He could have an incredible season. 50 goals. That's 19 fewer goals. Like, the Leafs were 3rd in their division. They didn't have home ice advantage in the first round, despite having a 69 goal scorer.
The next one is even, the one you did after that, I think is even more dark, because you said if Willie had a 50-goal season and Austin had a 50-goal season, they'd still be down on goals.
They'd still be -9
from last season. If both of them had a 50-goal season, we would be over the moon.
Yes.
But if you just look at the stats from last year, it's actually less cumulative goals that both of them scored. That's insane.
If Austin got 50, Willie got 50, and Nyes got 25, they would be +1. Like, the share, I'm not doing it again.
Right.
I'm not doing it again. But the Stars have to perform. They can't just perform like Stars. They have to perform fucked to even get to where they were last year, which is not good enough. Right? Like, I like the tandem. I like the top four. Like the first thing I thought of when we were talking about the power play and how it goes back to last year and the changes the Leafs made over the offseason, and well, I like that. Well, I like that. Well, I like that. Well, okay. The main focus of the power play is still the same people. Like, yeah, you throw OEL in there. But the second unit is always mercenaries. Like, it's always guys who are here for a hot flash, right? Like this year, okay, Pacioretty, there's a one and done probably, unless he resigns. Can we call Alan live on the show? Surprise him?
I think probably more time needs to pass.
Yeah.
Although the way Pacioretty's been throwing the body, I hope they keep him around.
I love him. Yeah,
he's
sure.
been crushing guys.
Yeah. Okay,
Weirdly.
McMahon's got a contract.
Yeah.
Domi. Robertson's been given he's gone from one of their best players in the preseason to Nick, we need you to be better than Pontus Holmberg playing poorly.
But
not just Pontus Holmberg.
I think he
playing
plays
poorly.
Better. He's playing better than Pontus Holmberg. He's just not getting the results.
But he has a catastrophic shift once a game. And he had one in this one where he broke his stick and was just completely vulnerable out there. You should have heard Joe Bowen on the radio.
Oh, really? I didn't hear
He just abandoned calling the play. He's like, go to the bench.
Wow.
He just abandoned going
Really?
to the bench.
I missed Joe.
Go
on
to the
TV.
bench. And then at intermission, he's like, you're as a forward, you're useless without your stick. Go get one. Take a few seconds to go get. Anyway, I'm going over a lot of issues here. The bottom six, unless Dewar and Yarncroke coming back is actually bigger for this team than you think. Like, Yarncroke has scored 20 goals. Dewar was scoring at roughly a 15-goal pace before he came to Toronto and then sort of fizzled a little bit. If those guys can come into the lineup and score at roughly that pace, that takes a lot of pressure off. Takes a lot of pressure. Like, that's points in the standings right there.
Oh, yeah.
But again, the core guys, Matthews in particular, have to score at such a goofy rate to even break even that it's not looking realistic.
Well, I actually think that you're wrong on that one because I do think that there is depth on this team to make up if this magic 19 goals just evaporates and he gets to 50, and that's still extremely impressive. I think they have the horses to do it. The problem is
Nyes
Nyes has got 6 goals, right?
Big part of
Willie's
that.
got 9 and 13.
He's a big part
John and by the way, Austin Matthews and John Tavares are tied with each other in points right now. 5 goals
Good
each.
for one of them.
And I want to say this. He's had a great year as far as assists go.
Yeah.
But Mitch Marner having the same amount of goals as Steven Lorentz is not going to pass.
Right.
And Mitch Marner having less goals than McMahon, less goals than Riley, and the same amount of goals as Max Pacioretty, respective of what Mitch does. I'm not trying to take, but he needs to score.
Well, and
you
this
do
is-
need to actually score goals, and goals are more important.
There's
They
a
are.
solid argument that he's their best player right now. At
Oh yeah,
worst-
I
at
want to
worst-
compliment him later.
At worst, I think he's second. Like Willie's, I mean, he's got 9 goals. Like, it's pretty good. But as good as Mitch has been, like, you look at his points, you look at his assists, you look at some of the stuff he's doing in front of the net, like that goal he got the other night. Go to the net. Doesn't matter what size you are. That's at least the second goal of the season where it's like, hey, Mitch was the screen. It's still enough to be exactly where you were last year, 6-5-2, after 13 games. It's the Leafs year in and year out with this structure are just trying to fill the same holes with the same. They're trying to fill the same 10 holes with the same 8 fingers.
And
it's not working.
Steve, is it that one of their best players or a couple of their best players are not scoring at the rate they normally are? And once that regresses or progresses, as I think is probably the better term, things will get better.
Yeah. Show me.
I agree. I agree. But what? Listen, we have
how
had
many
one
times
thing
are we
will
gonna say what if?
One thing we can say is in the regular season they score goals.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to deny that.
No, this is right around the time last year where they just went off and they had a run that they were basically able to ride for the rest of the season. But I'm tired of saying, hey, what if everything works out? Like I'm just boring. Like it's a fool's errand. Like to me. Like I sit here every show and I'm like, don't mention April. Don't mention April. Don't mention April. What if everything goes perfectly? I think there's 25 teams in the NHL who can make the playoffs if everything goes perfectly. There's like 7 who suck. Mm-hmm. Like I'm tired of it.
See, I'm not as down on the overall team. I think the power play thing is an issue, though.
I'm not down on the team.
I'm not either. I actually think I have to be honest with you, and I probably should have started the segment this way. I'm actually quite high on this team. I love the way they play.
Team's going to be fine. Team has the same fucking problems.